Gold was first discovered in this area we now know as Idaho, up north near present-day Pierce in 1860. Miners seeking their fortune flooded into the Idaho Territory from all over. Of course, that wasn't the only place. The story goes George Grimes and Moses Splawn were the first to discover gold in the Boise Basin. Splawn was apparently told by a Native American there was so much gold just lying around it could be picked up by the fistfuls. So they went there. They eventually found it on this day, August 2nd, 1862, along creeks that would later be known as Grimes and Moores. And between 1863 and 1959, 2.8 million ounces of gold was pulled out of the Boise Basin. It's an area roughly of about 300 square miles and includes places we now know as Grimes Creek, Moores Creek, Pioneerville, Centerville, Placerville, and most of that led to the establishment of Idaho City, and it became one of the most populated places in the Northwest. Within a couple of years, it was the largest town between St. Louis and San Francisco, the largest city in the Northwest at the time. But it wasn't always known as Idaho City. There's gold in them thar hills, and in this day in history in 208.
In 1863, the same year Idaho officially became its own territory of the United States, gold was the driving force behind the flooding of people into the Idaho Territory. The hot spot was Idaho City, but back then, this thriving metropolis was known as Bannock City, with its very own newspaper, who put out its first edition on September 29th of that year. But other papers were publishing portrayals of Idaho's prosperity, like this one from the North Iowa Times. On December 23, 1863, reprinting a letter dated in October of 1863 from the Leavenworth Times in Kansas. It calls Idaho the new El Dorado and describes the Boise Basin lode as being between 24 mountains, so high you would have to look twice before you could see the top of them, and that we never see the sun rise in this valley. But also, it is one of the most desolate places you can imagine on the globe. A canyon filled with 400 to 500 inhabitants, mostly miners, who are all doing first-rate, much better, old miners say, than California. These are facts, and I presume this country will prove the richest poor man's mining country ever discovered. Which it seemed to be, because as the Smoky Hill and Republican Union in Junction City, Kansas put it on December 1st, 1863, in their news gleaning section, a Dr. Lovejoy arrived at St. Joseph from Bannock City, Idaho, with 300 pounds of gold. Just to let you know. And just to let you know, 300 pounds of gold in 1863 was worth about $82,000. By today's count, that same 300 pounds would be worth more than $8 million. And also from the Midwest, the Charles City Republican Intelligencer, March 31st, 1864, publishing a letter from Kansas City, which they called Direct and Reliable from Idaho. A Dr. E.D. Ralph, an old and well-known citizen of this city, went to Bannock last year with a stock of goods and has just returned. As to the gold, it is there, he says, and in large quantities, of a very pure quality, found in nuggets as well as dust. In fact, he tells the story of another Kansas City man, Jim Vivian, who spent a couple of years in Colorado and made nothing. But he's now in Idaho, in charge of 20 men and taking out $1,200 a day. The doctor says the trip can be made from here to Bannock in about 70 days, but you might want to bring provisions to last 6 months.
However, if you did set off on that 70-day jaunt to Bannock City after reading that letter, you'd arrive in a place that no longer existed. Bannock City was established in 1863, as we established. That September, the Butler brothers began the Boise News. That's the weekly newspaper that we showed you at the beginning of that story. It took only a couple of months to change the name of the town, though, to avoid confusion with Bannock, Montana. The Boise News wrote this on February 20th, 1864. The good people of Bannock were astonished on Sunday morning to wake and find themselves in a new city, but not among strangers. By some transmutation, the whole population, houses and all, were in Idaho City. So Bannock City only existed a mere few months, but it certainly left its mark around the rest of the country.